So let's get to it. If I will ask Boye, how techie do teachers really need to be? Why all this hype around being a digital savvy teachers? How much do teachers need to be as techie as developers? What's the whole point of the need to have techie teachers out there?
Yeah, thank you very much, Shay, and thank you everyone who has made it here today. I think, this topic is very interesting to me because I've had encounters with, teachers who have actually, they're not techie yet. For them, it's how techie do they need to be? How many things do I need to be able to do as a teacher with all of these tools available out there? And I think my answer to them is very basic. Like, first of all, is do you know how to teach synchronously online? So do you know how to essentially, if you're in a Zoom class or a Gradely live class, or you're basically speaking over video to your students, do you capture elements of that you would normally have in your class, but now translated online? So for example, I'm gesticulating. Now, for example, I don't have a blackboard. I don't have a whiteboard, but I can have a screen share, a presentation that I have. And so essentially, I could also write on that presentation. I could have a whiteboard online. So can you do that, right? Can you actually, work on a whiteboard on the internet or come up with a presentation and make that interactive? So that's one of the key things. Can you teach synchronously? Secondly is, can you do presentations? Can you create online documents such as what we have right now in front of us, so that people can read, understand, and then can you make it interactive? So that's like, a list of skills. Second one. And then the third one is, can you create assessment online? So can you actually, use a quiz app if there is, so for example, Gradely has a quiz app, or, other LMSs have quiz features. Can you use that to create multiple choice questions, true or false questions, drag and drop questions, essay questions, and so on and so forth, fill in the gap questions online? If you can do that, you are becoming tech savvy for learning. And I think I just have a few more to go. So the last one that are basic skills is, can you interpret report analytics? So when they say, your student has improved, by X% and so on and so forth, can you read graphs about students? And those are basic skills. And then there maybe like two advanced skills. The first one is, can you create video? Can you create courseware? Now that's different from just a presentation. That's like a complete courseware. Can you create a set of videos following one after the other and say, when you watch this, take this quiz. After you do this, take that quiz. Can you actually build out courseware? Now that's advanced, right? And then lastly is, do you know how to use adaptive techniques? So adaptive techniques is personalizing for every child, so that every child is getting something different and you're not just teaching to the whole class. So essentially, that's kind of like a list of things, like I would say like a checklist that you want to start with to say, am I tech savvy enough to teach online? Thank you, Jay. Back to you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Boye. I have further questions, but I'm coming back to you because in a bit, but thanks for coming up with these interesting checklists of teachers. So teachers, please, you heard Boye, how much of this are you able to do and how will you evaluate yourself? Dr. Aminde, you are a senior lecturer, you're an educational researcher, you are a teacher trainer, and you've been doing this for a couple of years, and you've probably worked with more teachers and more teacher trainers than any of us here. Now, what do we need to borrow or leave out from the physical classroom? We know we are trying to transition, we are trying to be the tech savvy teachers that we want to be, but are there things we need to remove? Are there things we need to add to our physical classroom as it is today? Are you happy? We're happy to hear your thoughts on this.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kei, for this opportunity. I hope everybody can hear me clear.
Yes, we can.
Loud and clear, I can hear you clearly.
Okay. Thank you for this wonderful opportunity. Yeah, you see, unfortunately, or let me say fortunately, we found ourselves where we are now. And I think this what is happening recently, like what the coronavirus brought around has made us to know that we have to uh, change our mode of thinking. It's very difficult to convince most teachers or most people in years past that, oh, this is the way to go now. You can't continue with those old methods that they used to teach us when we were in school, that we have to be in tune with the global best practices. You see, the era of the stage on the stage has gone, and then we have to come to the new era, new normal era, where now you take teaching out of abstract. You are just telling somebody that a toad can fly or a toad can do this, or there's a ocean, like when they want to teach us maybe in geography, they're just showing us pictures. It has gone beyond that. And unfortunately, that is what most of our teachers still do now. But now and then teachers want to have a full control. They just want to hold on to their what do I call it, to their domain. They see anybody that want to intrude as that want to change the status quo as an intruder. But thank God that it's getting clearer and clearer every day that we cannot remain at the point where we are. Like I said, it cuts across every level, both from the basic, which I mean the primary and the junior primary, to the post-basic, secondary, even to the university. Most of our lecturers too, they don't have the requisite skills to function effectively in this era. And that's why we are trying to. Now what we are trying to do, because most people tend to confuse online learning with ERC. That is emergency remote learning, the remote teaching. There are two different things. What you are just doing now in most schools, I'm just talking about. There are some schools that are doing very, very fine, but there are some schools that are just doing emergency remote teaching, using of videos, Zoom, and all those stuff. They are just saying that you just adapt, just to keep the students going during this period when COVID locked everybody down. And then that cannot take us too far. We have to go beyond that and begin to look forward. So when we would get to the point where students will be free to learn at the pace at which they want to learn. I don't know. I know that maybe if anybody has studied education, you have heard about Bloom's taxonomy, where it talks about mastery learning. Every child can learn and attain. There is no dull child. The only difference is that the pace, the time that it takes every child to learn is going to be different. And when you pass 30 pupils in the class, and then you expect them to learn at the same rate, and you subject them to the same examination within the same period of time, and then you grade them, and you say the one person comes first. No, that's not done. You have to allow every learner to learn at his own pace. The one that may think that is the dullard may be the best, but he just needs experience, and then he just needs time. He just needs to learn at his own pace. And then, so that is why what we should be considering now, rather than saying that, okay, 2 hours for teaching in the class and you put everybody, and after that 2 hours, there are some students that will not be able to grasp what you want to teach within that 2 hours, that they will need extra time to study, and then you move on to the next subject this next time. and then you expect that kind of, I mean, those students to perform, and then that is not so. And as a teacher now, you begin to look at that aspect, and that is why we have to bring in, that's where the area of technology comes in. That teachers, okay, when you have taught at the classroom, you still have give students access to some online resources that they can go and consult, and then learn and study at home, so that they can learn better. And that's it. So by and large, the era of teacher, of course, the teacher now, for me, when I get to the class, I don't say I'm a teacher. I said because the kind of learning we have now should be learner-centered. I say I want to facilitate, I want to learn, and I want to bring out the best in my students. I want to, throw out questions. I want to fill their pulse so that I will know where I can start from. I want to see how they are responding. I look at their eyes, I ask questions, I joke, I do all sorts of things to make the class interesting. When I'm teaching them online, many people will just think that, okay, just like using of Zoom to engage their students, that's all. I don't know, maybe all of us have discovered that it's even difficult to sustain students, anybody, even adult attention on online more than 1 hour. Unlike when you have in the physical classroom that you can spend 2 hours and you don't even know when the 2 hours would lapse. This is very difficult for you to sustain attention of students for more than 1 hour. I think maybe, yes, those are some of the things that we should begin to reshape and rework. I call it rejigging our educational system. And that is it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Remedy. Thanks for sharing. For those just joining us, this is the Teachers Academy 2021, organized by Gradely. And we've just heard Dr. Remedy, a senior lecturer in the University of Ibadan. And just before that, Boye Oshinaga, CEO at Gradely, has also spoken on how the key teachers really need to be. Thanks for sharing, Dr. Remedy. I'm happy to come back to more questions. But Ms. Adeye, Dr. Remedy spoke about the teachers' mindsets. He mentioned something around how teachers need to shift, start thinking of themselves, not just as a sage on the stage, but one who facilitates learning. And I know that this is something that you've been working on a lot. You've been working on helping teachers become more intentional in delivering their work. So if I would ask, what's the best mindset for transitioning to digital learning?
Thank you, Shay. And yeah, there are a couple of things that Dr. Amide said that were very noteworthy. But I think I'll try to answer as quickly as possible so we can take as many questions afterwards. I think that any teacher in this day and age that thinks that the learning in the class revolves around them shouldn't be in that class teaching in the first place. It's a difficult, or over time, initially it would be probably a difficult thing to understand that you are not the be it and end all of the children's learning in class. Learning can and should go on in a class whether or not you are there. But having said that, it's also important to understand that when you have that mindset, you realize that you are not expected to know it all. Now, you find that with technology, the challenge a lot of people have is it's new to them. Not many people went to teacher training colleges that taught them how to implement technology or the use of technology in teaching and learning. And so there's a fear, first and foremost. So usually I tell people, understand that you're not expected to know it all. As a teacher, what you're expected to have is a growth mindset, a mindset of being a lifelong learner. the tools we have today will not be the tools that we may necessarily use in the next 5 to 10 years in terms of technology. So if you're not somebody who constantly learns or who is willing to learn constantly, you're either going to find yourself stuck in a rut or you're going to find yourself thrown off the wagon. So as a teacher, the first thing I would say to you is accept the fact that technology is here to stay. It's not going anywhere. But also accept the fact that it's a tool for you to use. It's not the entirety of learning. When you understand that it's a tool that you are able to learn, we all learned how to talk. We didn't learn it in one day. Those of us that know how to drive, we didn't learn how to drive in one day. And even when you got your driver's license and you started to drive, you continue to learn every day. So first and foremost, have a growth mindset. Then two, be ready to understand or be ready to accept that technology opens up a world of possibilities when it comes to learning. A world of possibilities that the traditional method of teaching and learning probably won't open up because of the vast tools that are open to us in the world. So growth mindset, possibility mindset, understanding that technology is merely a tool and you are the one that deploys that tool as teachers and as learners. Then I'll move on to the educational, the leaders in terms of the government, the school leaders and all of that. We need to begin to, the Nigerian curriculum isn't necessarily set up for excellent digital learning. There are a couple of things. So I usually say to people, like Dr. Aramide said, that the lockdown or the pandemic exposed, you know how Yoruba people say, I'll say, pardon me, afẹ́fẹ́ ti fẹ́ àti rí kíni. The wind has blown. The wind has blown, and now we've seen everything we're hiding. So we have a lot of work to do in terms of reimagining and reframing our curriculum across board to actually be able to deploy the technology that we want to, that we say we want to deploy. So when the lockdown started, I was privileged before I stopped working, before I resigned, to work in a school that had been deploying technology for almost a decade, as in actively deploying it. So when the lockdown hit, we were able to transition very easily. And even at that, it was a challenge because the curriculum is not set up for sole online learning. So we're going to have to look at our curriculum as a country, as an institution, as various schools, and rejig it. How exactly what do we need to take out? What do we need to collapse? What do we need to do to actually make it tech enabled? Then the second thing, I'm very big on mental health. At this point in time, a lot of teachers are stressed. They are, what's the word? Many people are resigning and leaving the field, whether we like it or not, because they're not seeing the technology as a tool. They're seeing it as an added element of stress. So as leaders, we need to be empathetic to the people who are supposed to the teachers in the field. We need to be able to actually give them the required training that they need. Because you don't throw a soldier into the field without training. It's expensive, but you have to do it. If this is where we're going, you need to be empathetic, you need to be ready to train, and then the teachers themselves, we ourselves need to have a constant growth mindset. Don't wait to be trained by your organization alone. Seek the training, collaborate, share best practice with your colleagues. Oh, I found this tool, this is how it's helping me. Try it out, let's try it out, let's see how useful it is. You might find one tool that does all the work that all your other 4 tools are doing. Keep those 4 tools and go and start using that one tool that makes your life easier. But until you share best practice and seek to grow, you will not know. So I think that covers it for me. Have a growth mindset, understand that you're not the be it and end all of teaching and learning in your class. Be open to possibilities, share best practice, and understand that technology is merely a tool. You are the one that deploys the tool.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for sharing. This is super helpful. I would have just one question each based on this conversation earlier. While you were speaking, you mentioned how teachers need to create. Can they create assessments? Can they do this? Can they work with analytics? Can they read, interpret analytics? we've had different versions of this teacher training, and there's a common feedback that teachers give. Teachers are headbound in operational work in school. There's so much operational works to be done in school that there is almost no chance to create anything. Now, given the structure of schools, I mean, some teachers literally follow school buses. Some teachers literally do a lot of operational work in school. How do teachers become creative, or how do you build creativity in such an environment that is so operationally demanding? I'm happy to not just Boye, but I'm happy to hear the thoughts of any all our panelists. So Boye, do you want to start?
Yeah, thank you very much, Shay. That's a really good question. I think that one of the things that a teacher needs to do, and everybody should do this as an individual, you take stock of your time. So is it 80-20? Are you spending 80% of your time on things that don't really matter to the learning of a child? And you want to be able to present, if this is not entirely your fault. Shay, let me know if you can still hear me.
I can hear you.
Great. So if this is not entirely your fault, but that of your school, because schools are set up in certain ways, right? You want to then present this record and say, so over the last 1 week, I have spent X amount of time marking scripts. I've spent X amount of time preparing for sports activities or whatever other things that are not tied to learning of the child. And say, see, I spend 70% of my time with non-learning activities. I don't have time to do remedial class with my child, with some of my students who are behind after I taught them initially. We don't have time to do a mock test or to do after school classes. Is it possible that we automate some part of my work? So there are tools out there that automate a lot of the operational work. And teachers should not spend a lot of time marking. I'm sure it will sound like a shocking thing to say, but teachers should not spend a lot of time marking, period. You know, your job is not really the marking, it's the interpretation of what the score is. So if you can mark very at scale, maybe for example, you can mark 200 children's stuff in 5 minutes or 10 minutes. That's kind of thing you're trying to aim at. So spending time just saying, I'll get back to you, I'll mark my script. This is one of the reasons why we started Gradely in the first place. That I remember when I was in secondary school and I would have written the midterm test and the result would come just before exam. So it was completely useless to me in terms of like feedback. All right. And we're still doing it today in 2021. No, of course not. Of course not. There are tools to take care of those things. So I would say,
thank you
to take care of those things. Talk to your leader at school.
Thanks, Boye. One of our listeners wanted you to list out the some of those checklists for testing whether you're tech savvy. So you can just please put that in the comments box. You mentioned some checklists that teachers can basically self-evaluate and determine whether they're tech savvy. So you want to please help us put that in message box. I'm going to ask Dr. Ramide this question again and I'm happy to hear Ms. Ade speak on this a lot. Dr. Ramide, what are you doing, and what is being done on the teacher training side, and what are the center doing? What are we doing to prepare teachers for a tech savvy world? I mean, on the curriculum side, on the teacher training side, what effort is being done? What effort needs to be done? What we need to do from that angle to prepare teachers that are truly tech savvy?
Thank you very much. You see, as a follow-up to the last speaker, you see, our curriculum is nothing to write home about. That's one. Two, I used to tell people, you see, if you don't flow with the trend that is currently on ground now, it will just be irrelevant. In fact, the next few months, most teachers will just fade out. So now, let me quickly chip in something on how you manage your time. If you don't, of course, we know that the work environment in Nigeria is cumbersome. You will not be able to have time for yourself to develop yourself. But then you know that you must do it. You must develop yourself. That is what will make you to be relevant. If you are loaded, people will look for you, even if you are under the ground. And for you to be loaded, you have to start for knowledge. There is one thing that we call pedagogical skills. Teachers need to learn and know the basics of pedagogical skills. It's not about when you want to be tech savvy as education is concerned, you want to be able to impart, because technology is just there, just like Mrs. Adeya said, the two. Each of these technologies, they have their affordances. What do I mean by affordances? What you can use them for. Just like, okay, you know that a table, you can only use it to, you can either sit on a table or use a table to eat or put something on the table. Or a TV, you can use it for something. So what the structure that a particular thing is made for is what we call affordances. And then, so you must be able to know which tools to deploy to teach this particular, to achieve this goal. And these are some of the things that we are trying to do in our department. We organize workshops regularly. We do at some of our conferences, we do that. And then in our department, we are I mean, and in the University of Ibadan, let me say specifically in my department, we review the curriculum up to 2 times in the last 2 years. And as we are still going to review it again this year, by God's grace, because this is it. If we don't do it, we will just not be able to achieve what we want to achieve. For our teachers to be able to function effectively and also be able to deliver. Yeah, you have to have that skill. It's not just and it's a specialized skill. It's not just skills that you can. It's only teacher. It's only the key profession that every teacher can come in. Somebody who have BSc in chemistry is they will employ you to come and teach. I mean, you don't have that pedagogical skill. It's an educational training thing. If you look at after what I went for in the University of Cape Town was ICT in educational, PGD in educational, PGD then specialized in ICT in education. How to use the postgraduate diploma in education program, but to go and learn how you can use ICT to teach. And then that's where you are going to know which one is suitable to teach this course, which one is suitable to teach this course. Okay, if you have a particular item that you want to teach or outline, what technology can you adopt? Not just everybody just think okay, if I want to teach mathematics now, I can use Zoom. No. Or if I want to teach, there are specific, and you can't know that unless you have those pedagogical skills. And that is what every teacher should also, if every teacher wants to be relevant and want to be able to deliver. There are some teachers that when they are in class, or even when they are teaching online, the students will be bored. They won't even listen to you. They will just be saying, let this man just finish his lecture and go away. So, but then there are some teachers that when they're teaching students, after 2 hours, they will say, can you continue? So these are some of the things that we are doing. And just like Mr. Boye has said, you see, I used to tell people, you don't wait for the institution to send you to training. Go and train yourself. What you learn becomes your part or your own. Is your knowledge base, and it increases your value. It increases your value. People will look for you when they want to do something. They go and look for somebody. Even if I've had there's a particular I don't know. So you may know Dumebi, who is one of our PhD students. Dumebi is a PhD student, and then he just went to deliver a lecture. He's also a teacher librarian in one of the schools, I think Valencia or something in Ibadan. He just went to talk about reading and all those stuff. He came up with so many ideas about teaching, like drop everything and read, and display a lot of pictures. Somebody, a particular student reading on a tree, a particular reading on the road, and then he went to deliver a particular speech in Abuja. It was right there that the organizer of the program said, "Please, maybe can you come to come and deliver this same speech in US?" And the guy said that the lady said that I have a husband. They said, "Oh no, you want to?" That was when I know that if you want to travel to US today, the visa can be ready within 4 days. Together with your husband. You see, you have to have this thing, and because he has the capability and capacity and the requisite skills, pedagogical skills to drive home our point. This is what teachers should aspire to do now, to start for it. That is Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ramide. And this is so helpful. I think that one learning thing that we are taking home here is that self-development is a must. Managing our time is a must as teachers, and something that we would be most to do. So I'll just wrap up this session with my last question to you've been on the administrative side of things. So you're able to look at things from not just the teacher's angle, but also the administrator's angle. I've interacted with administrators who said, "See, we don't train teachers because once you train them, they switch and go to another school." How do you, given the complexities here, and you are someone who has been focusing on training teachers on being intentional about this thing, how do you marry being tech savvy, being creative, being valuable to your employer, the school, and also developing yourself? Are there processes or steps that you've explored before? I mean, you teach in a school and you've been able to show significant growth, going ahead to do an MSc. How did you put all of these things together, even while teaching in the classroom?
That's the administrator who says they don't train teachers, and it's common. Unfortunately, it's pretty common in the education sector where you have some school owners or administrators say they don't train their teachers because they would leave. And to such people, I usually say, you either train your teachers knowing fully well that while they're with you, they will add value. And if you are good to them and the culture of the organization is one that allows for growth and development, they will stay with you. Or you don't train them and you have a horrible organization that doesn't have qualified or good teachers. It's a choice you just have to make. There are many people that have domestic staff who train them and they know they're not going to stay with them forever. So I think it's even important that when people begin to employ people, understand that they may never be with you forever, but you must train them. Now back to how I managed. I've always been somebody who believes that wherever I am, I must add value. And in order for me to add value, just like Dr. Aramide said, I didn't wait to be trained by my organization. I worked with an organization that valued professional development. So they would train their staff. They would train their staff locally and internationally. But I didn't wait for that. And what that did for me, what that would do for you as an individual, like someone said, is the knowledge is yours. value is yours, and it sets you on a, I don't want to use the word pedestal, but it increases your value in the face of your organization and your leaders, because your bargaining power becomes, what's the word now? It becomes higher. I know that you didn't train me, I went myself, but I understand that, or they begin to understand that, see, this person is training herself. It also puts them on their toes, understanding that if she's training herself this much, there must be something, she values her time, she values her profession, and at any point in time, she can decide that she wants to go. So they do well by you, quote and unquote. You know, another thing that helped was because I knew I was somebody that wanted to develop myself professionally, I had to collaborate. There were times I was not in school, but because I knew, for example, if I knew I was going to be away on training for a week, I would have made sure to do all I needed to do. The classes I was supposed to teach, I would either have found a way to teach them before leaving, or I will ask a colleague of mine, maybe the associate teacher in my class or somebody, guy, lady, please, I'm not going to be around for a while. And I need to be able to let the organization know that I'm not going to be around, but I have made this arrangement. You can't just wake up one morning and say you are going for a training, and then you leave the responsibility to organization to think of how to to sort out your work. You need to be proactive in that regard as well. That way they know that even though you want to develop yourself outside of the training they are giving you, you're also conscious of the fact that you have a responsibility to that organization as long as you're an employer. So you are making contingency plans for what the children are supposed to learn. Then the third thing I did was I shared knowledge. As I gained, I shared the knowledge within the organization. We would have trainings. I would share what it was I learned. But because like I said, I'm wherever I am, I must add value. And for you to add value, value must be added to you. So you can't add value without gaining knowledge. So that's the mentality I have. And I just know that but I also had, as long as you're an employee of this organization, you need to be responsible. Sometimes the reason why people don't want their staff to go on training is because there's a measure of responsibility that comes. You don't ask for permission the right way, or you don't show, like, I don't know if it was Sheyi or Boye, or I can't remember who's mentioned out. You just need to let people know this is what I'm doing, and I've put this in place so that my work will not suffer. When I come back, I would like to share this knowledge, and they see you implement what it is you say you're going to learn. Nobody can tell you not to work. If somebody then tells you not to go for that training, then you know that that organization is not where you're meant to be, or it's not an organization that would allow you to grow. So that's how I worked around it. Right now, I'm currently not working anywhere because, like I said, I'm out of the country. It's actually 4:50 a.m. here, but it's a sacrifice. It's a lot of sacrifice. It's a lot of sacrifice, but it's very well worth it in terms of going after what you want. Because time waits for no man. And you find a lot of educators in schools and they're stuck. That's the only word I can use. They're stuck. So yeah, I hope that answered your question, Jay.
Yes, you did justice, in fact, so well. Thank you very much to our panelists. I feel like taking is more and more, but we have limited time for this event. So we want to appreciate you. Thank you for all you've done. Like, the comment box is buzzing with teachers mentioning how valuable this session has been to them. I want to say thank you very much for taking time to be part of this. We are grateful, Dr. Ramide, Adeye, and Boye Oshinaga from Gridley. Thank you very much for this worthwhile session. We look forward to having you in subsequent teacher interactions like this. We hope you'll be happy to join us again.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Sheyi. I appreciate the opportunity. Yeah. Thank you. Ms. Adeye, thank you very much.
Nice to meet you. Yes.
Yeah. Bye.